Monday evening, Chicago. It's a Victory Monday. Almost forgot what those felt like. The Bears finally won again. It took them 2 months, but they figured out how to win a game again. And what a win! 36-7 over the Houston Texans. Woo! Let's have some fun. Let's talk about that. Let's celebrate. It might be a mirage. It might be a fading fad, but who cares? For at least 1 day and 1 week, we can have a little bit of fun. Let's enjoy that one a little bit, shall we? Mitch Trubisky outperforms Deshaun Watson. Matt Nagy's offense looks competent. May wonders never cease. We'll talk about the Bears tonight, and then let's also dive in and get onto the hard court. The Chicago Bulls have played a couple preseason games. Let's kind of talk about them a little bit, see what they might have to offer for us. Zach LaVine putting some points up there last night. Kobe White starting to look a little bit more like a leader. We could talk about some Bulls a little bit more. And then the NCAA. Just when you think they can't get weirder, 2020 goes and shows that no, they can. Let's pick on the NCAA a little bit more while we can and make fun of the college football playoff system and the lack of playoffs a little bit here. And then also, today is an anniversary in Chicago Blackhawks history and in, frankly, NHL history. So we'll talk about that a little bit. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on iesports radio. Everybody sit down, buckle up, and let's have some fun. Once again, hello and welcome into the show. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on iesports radio. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday night if you're listening live, or whenever you're listening on a podcast or YouTube later on. Thank you so much for taking time out to listen to us tonight. That felt good, didn't it, yesterday? That just felt really, really, really good to watch the Bears actually win a football game. I see Taryn has jumped into the chat already. If you are listening live on Spreaker, please do log in, create a free username for yourself, and you can join the chat and talk back and forth with us. Taryn jumped on here right away. I guess the Bears made the correct choice when picking Mitch in the draft from 2017. I would, excuse me, I wouldn't necessarily go that far with it, but that was an impressive game from Mitch yesterday for sure. Certainly one of his best games as a professional. And we're going to dive into that game a little bit more yesterday, since finally, for the first time in 2 months, the Bears have a win to celebrate. So we'll dive into that a little bit more tonight. Some other homework to get out of the way here quickly. Ways you can interact with the show. You can follow the show on Twitter at Chi-Town Weekly, IESR, and follow up with posts and things that we're doing there. If you want to follow me personally on Twitter, you can find me at Adam_Karnick. You can also follow the station on Twitter at iesports, or on Instagram, iesports, and also on Facebook, iesports. And if you do follow along with the station on Facebook, check out the Hidden Gems sports group that we have created. It's a chance for not only our shows to better interact with listeners, but it's a chance for other podcasters and other sports fans to just get in and have some fun in the conversation there. One other little bit of homework as we're in the holiday season right now. I know 2020 has been a little bit of a hard year on everyone, a bit of a hard year on everybody, but in IE Sports has unfortunately been no exception to that. We're currently looking for a new sponsor to try and help us pay the bills. But in the meantime, we have set up a page on Ko-Fi, Ko-Fi.com. It's an opportunity for listeners to just help support us. They refer to it as buying a coffee. If you're able to, please. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be $1, $2, $3, anything that you're able to. If you can donate to that, Ko-Fi sets it up so that everything comes directly to us, and it just kind of helps keep the lights on, if you will, for the station. Keep us doing what we're doing. We've got 16 shows that go on the air every week, just like this one. Shows like Let's Whine About Sports coming up right after, or the Soccer Scoreboard on Sundays, or the Kansas City Shuffle on Tuesdays, or any of the other various and sundry shows that we do. SoCal Supreme Sports Show on Friday nights that we do. And it's just a way to help us to be able to pay the bills for things like Spreaker and StreamYard and YouTube and the other ways that we post our content. So you go to ko-fi.com/iesportsradio. Right there is the opportunity to donate to us. If you're able, that would be a huge help to us. If you're not able to, that's okay. Thank you so much for just continuing to listen and support us that way. We really, really appreciate it. So the Bears. I came into that game yesterday fully expecting the exact opposite of what happened. I figured that Deshaun Watson was going to have this game circled on the calendar of, I'm going to prove to everybody what a huge mistake it was for the Bears to not even consider talking to him before the draft back in 2017, and that he was going to personally make it his mission to show the Bears just how wrong they were to pass on him. And Watson overall didn't have a terrible game, but for him, it really just was no supporting cast around him, missing his top two wide receivers, not having his top running back, not having an offensive line that was able to protect him, just really hurt Deshaun Watson. And then Trubisky came to play. My goodness. What a fantastic, not only just performance from Trubisky, just seeing the field well, reading the field well, and being decisive with his throws and being deliberate with his reads. 24 of 33 passing, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, and for the first time since all the way back in week 1 in a game that he started, he didn't turn the ball over. What a fantastic game from him. Also, credit to offensive coordinator / play caller Bill Lazor and head coach Matt Nagy for building a game plan that worked to Mitch's strengths. That's such a huge difference when they're doing the rollouts and the bootlegs and changing it to be a half-field read, meaning they're taking the width of the field and literally cutting it in half and just simplifying the game for Mitch in that way. It's not the kind of offense that Nagy likes to run. He's done it a couple of times with Mitch the last couple of years, specifically last year against the Cowboys. He ran a game plan like that, and Mitch ran it to perfection, and it worked so well. He had one of his best games as a pro then as well. This one yesterday was quite possibly his finest complete performance as a pro. Obviously, the game back in 2018 against Tampa Bay when he threw 6 touchdowns is always going to be the I hate to say standard bearer, but it's always going to be one of the first ones that especially the national media is going to turn to, because he had 6 touchdown passes in a single game. But he just looked like a more complete product yesterday. And the offense as a whole, to put up 34 points as an offense, to not need an interception returned all the way down to the 15-yard line of Houston to set up a score, or to not need multiple takeaways from the defense in order to get points on the board. The defense did get multiple takeaways and get some great stops, but the offense was able to produce on its own, and that was a wonderful sight to see, a sight for sore eyes. And it, in some ways, it's a little frustrating because it's, where has this been all year? Why haven't they been able to do this all season long? But, and I don't know how real this is. I saw a stat where over the last 3 games, the Bears are actually 4th in the NFL in scoring at averaging just a tick over 30 points a game over the last 3 weeks. Pump the brakes on that a little bit right now. They had a lot of garbage time stats and a lot of garbage time points in that Green Bay game. They were going up against Detroit last week, which is arguably the 3rd worst defense in the NFL. And then yesterday they were going up against a Houston defense that is probably the 2nd worst defense in the NFL. So I can't get that out of my mind that these are some bad defenses that the Bears were beating up on the last couple of weeks when they were really having huge success and looking like a competent NFL offense. But it's still just great to be able to say that the Bears offense was competent and professional, because that's something they haven't been all season long. So to finally be able to put that out there is huge. And now that they've won a game and this 6-week losing streak is done, it's a lot less ridiculous to look at the playoff scenario for the Bears right now, and it's actually not that outlandish for the Bears. The Bears at 6-7, technically they have to leapfrog at least 2 teams to get into the 7th spot. They are currently the number 9 team in the NFC. They've got the Vikings in front of them, also at 6-7, and then they have the Arizona Cardinals in front of them at 7-6. Well, the Vikings, that situation is obviously going to take care of itself, is going to resolve itself one way or the other this coming Sunday as the Bears head into Minnesota. That game is massive. It is colossal. I heard earlier today a statistic. If the Bears, they're not mathematically eliminated with a loss to Minnesota, but their odds of making the playoffs jump from 43% with a win. They fall all the way down to 3% chance to make the playoffs if they lose to Minnesota. So that's a huge, critical, crucial game that they've got to have to beat Minnesota this coming Sunday. So that situation is going to take care of itself. And then they only need to finish with the same record as Arizona. So let's make this simple. The Bears win out. They finish 9-7. They only need Arizona to lose one of its final 3 games, which are against the suddenly resurgent Philadelphia Eagles, led by rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts. This could be a bad time for the Cardinals to be facing the Eagles. Then they play the 49ers. All right, that's one that probably Arizona will win. The 49ers are banged up. They're beat up. That's going to be a tough one for the 49ers to need to have. If you want to know more about the 49ers, you can check out the North Cal Faithful show on iesportsradio. I believe Danny does that on Wednesday nights, I believe. So you be sure to check him out if you want to know more about the 49ers. And then lastly, the Cardinals play the Rams. in Los Angeles, a team they've already lost to once. So the Bears only need the Cardinals to drop one of those 3 games, and suddenly if the Bears win out, they're in the playoffs. They've got Minnesota this week, then they've got the Jacksonville Jaguars next week, who haven't won since week 1, and then you've got the Green Bay Packers in a scenario where who knows what the Packers will or won't have to gain by playing that week. Right now, the Packers, they've clinched the division. They sit atop the entire conference at 10-3. They own the tiebreaker over the Saints. It's very possible the Packers could go into that game having already clinched home field. And then we'll see. Don't count on the Packers deciding to take Week 17 off, but there's a world of difference between, all right, we're not taking the week off, but we have absolutely nothing to gain and nothing to lose by playing this week, and being a team that is absolutely desperate to get into the playoffs if you're the Bears in Week 17. So the Bears actually, as crazy as it sounds, are sitting in an okay spot for the playoffs. Now, they've got to take care of their own business, and I'm not convinced that they can or will take care of their own business. But, and there was, I was talking back and forth to some other guys today. I got it confirmed. The Bears do just need the Cardinals to lose one of those 3 games. It's the joy and fun of getting into NFL tie-breaking procedures. It would be a lot simpler if the Bears would have just played the Cardinals this year, then we'd know. But since they haven't played each other, the first tiebreaker would be record in conference. In that scenario where the Bears win out and the Cardinals lose a game, well, then they'd finish with identical conference records, so that doesn't help. The next one is then record against common opponents. They have 4 common opponents: the Lions, the Rams that I already mentioned, the Giants, and then the Panthers are all common opponents between the Bears and the Cardinals. The Bears have gone 3-2 against those 4 teams. Obviously, they played the Lions twice. The Cardinals will wind up playing 5 games against those 4 teams. The best the Cardinals could hope to be at this point is 2-3 against those 4 teams. So that's how the Bears would win the tiebreaker over the Cardinals in that scenario. So the long and short of it is, Bears, you win out. You only need the Cardinals to lose one of their final 3 games, and the Bears are in the playoffs. Long shot, yes. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm not convinced yet. I do this against the Vikings next week. Take it one game at a time. Show me that this hasn't been a mirage and that this offense is real and that you can consistently score on your own, and then we'll talk. But it's just wonderful to be celebrating a win on a Monday night show. First time in too long, it just feels good. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After coming out of the break, let's switch over and talk about some basketball. Let's talk about Chicago Bulls hoops. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on iesportsradio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I A in the FBS? Well, then look no further join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fastbreak here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastbreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on iesportsradio, your direct feed for all that is sports. A little bit of follow-up from the Bears conversation we had in that first segment. Taryn comments that the Rams will happily take care of the Cardinals in Week 17. That would be a huge help if that were to happen. Taryn, I hope that help isn't needed by that point, but it would be much appreciated if it were to happen. And I'm glad to see, Taryn, that you're not skipping class to be able to listen to us tonight. Finals week. Yeah, I remember that from college. If I remember, finals was an acronym that I definitely would not want to say on the air because, yep, I have a daughter in the house that repeats everything I say, so I definitely don't want to repeat that acronym. But I hope your finals and projects go well, Taryn. All right, so let's talk about the Bulls for a minute. They got started last week in a couple preseason games, played the Rockets. One game went well, the other game went, in the words of new head coach Billy Donovan, they got their butts kicked. So you know, what can you learn, though, from a couple of preseason games? You know, you always want to take them tongue-in-cheek and be a little cautious because, you know, you're not trying to necessarily win those games. It's just as much about getting loose and feeling better about playing again. And especially for the Bulls, this was such an unusual off-season and an unusual time frame. I saw the team tweet out, it had been over 200 days since you could say Bulls win. So this is just such an unusual offseason. The Bulls weren't a part of the bubble down in Orlando. That was pseudo regular season, pseudo postseason for the entire NBA. So there was obviously a lot of rust just getting knocked off for the players. And in the game last night, you saw Zach LaVine come into his own a little bit. 23 points, played a little over 27 minutes. Also added 9 rebounds and 5 assists. Kobe White had a 20-point game out of him. 5 assists for him as well. Those two guys also combined to make half of their three-point shot attempts. That's always good to see, especially the modern NBA with the huge emphasis on three-point shooting. And the new guy, the rookie, Patrick Williams, got involved a little bit, 13 points. And then, just starting to look better. Yes, it was against some backups, against a Houston team that was as much trying to make sure that everybody got playing time out on the court as much as it was trying to win a ball game. But Donovan also, obviously, every coach always likes winning better. We physically competed a lot better. I feel like the biggest thing we tried to clean up last game was just us competing at a higher and more physical level than we did. So, Coach Donovan feeling a little bit better about his effort. They're also, as a team, they're trying to play a different defensive scheme than they had played in years past. In years past, they were doing a lot more run and chase kind of defense. This way, they're a bit more methodical in their system, in being more deliberate in cutting down passing lanes and not allowing open shots to the outside. That was a big problem with the defensive system they had played previously, was they were allowing opponents to get some open looks from three-point land, from down deep. And anymore in this modern NBA in which everybody plays, the three-pointer is so crucial and so king that giving up three-point shots obviously is not what you want to be doing. So having the players learn a new defensive system, they're taking it to heart a little bit. They're starting to pick up. 104-91 last night. Leaps and bounds better from where they were in the first night, losing 125 to 104. So now they go on the road later this week. They've got 2 more preseason games, both in Oklahoma City. The NBA has decided what it's doing for its preseason this year is everybody plays 4 games, but you go to 2 cities, your own city and somebody else's city, and you play 2 games in both spots, and that's how the preseason is going to work. And then we are a week away from the start of the NBA season. I know it's been an odd off season, and it kind of slipped past me as well that it's coming up. But the NBA season starts on the 22nd. The Bulls actually tip off next week, Wednesday. On the 23rd is their first game. They will be home. I believe it's against Atlanta is their first game. So it's right around the corner. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bulls are going to look like this year under Billy Donovan. It's just so different. They're obviously anything out of the last couple years, where Jim Boylan was just so actively holding the team and the franchise and the players back with his archaic and outdated thoughts and ideas of how professional basketball is going to be played. There's obviously going to be a lot of adjustment that has to be made on everybody's part just to modernize the Bulls and get them up to speed with where the rest of the league and the conference and basketball as a sport just is. The Bulls are just so far behind compared to everybody else. I wouldn't expect a huge increase in wins this season. I'm hoping to do a little bit more in-depth of a Bulls preview on next week's show, but we can dive into a little bit right now. I'm not suddenly expecting that the Bulls are going to be front runners and going to be serious contenders for a playoff spot, but if you can suddenly, and this is not even going to be a full season. Keep in mind the NBA is hoping to get in 72 games this season. Normally they do 82 games in a schedule in a typical season. As a lot of people know, they're typically 82 games. They're going to try and shorten it to just 72 this year, and I saw that the NBA isn't even going to try and schedule their second half of the season until they get further along into the season to see how viable their games and their strategies and their scheduling patterns have worked. Looking at the schedule, you've got long stretches of being at home and then long stretches of short little road trips, cities that are all close to each other in geography so that you don't have to go as far and you can better protect the players, more time isolated in their hotels or in their planes so that they're not as out and about in cities. But they're gonna wait to kind of finalize the second half of the schedule until they see how the first half goes, and then if they need to adjust and reform, then they can. The Bulls were 22-43 last year. If the Bulls can win 30 games, that's a huge, huge improvement for this team. In a 72-game season, 35 would be amazing. To get even close to 500 would be amazing. I don't know that they're going to get there to that, but anything you can do just to look more competent and look more accomplished and polished and just looking like a respectable NBA franchise is going to be a huge step in the right direction for this team and for this city. Chicago's a great hoops town. When the Bulls are playing well, it's fun. It's always more fun when the Bulls are playing well, and hopefully now with this new direction with a new head coach, some new players that can buy in and feel like they're better represented and they're better, and they're being listened to by management. Hopefully, things are going to turn around for them in a good way and in an exciting way for them. So hopefully these preseason games that they played in Oklahoma City, that'll be a little bit of a return trip for Billy Donovan. He was the head coach in Oklahoma City before coming to Chicago this year. So I don't know how much that plays into a preseason game by any means, but maybe there's a little bit there to kind of, hey, show the old bosses that you shouldn't have gotten rid of me, and that he can get the best out of his players there and get some wins, get some highlights for him. All right, going to take a little bit of an earlier break than normal. Coming out of the break, I did it last week a little bit. I want to do it again. The NCAA is an unbelievably frustrating organization from time to time, especially when it comes to figuring out how in the world college football is supposed to work. And as the college football season is wrapping up and we're going to be seeing some bowl games and some conference championships propping up this weekend, I have to shake my head at the NCAA. So we'll do that coming up next. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on iesportsradio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Down! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN 2 is officially in development, but we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest donors. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do.
Hey, what's up, BS3 sports fans? If you love listening to the BS3 Sports Show, check out the weekend wrap-up every Monday at 12:15 Central Time, 1:15 Eastern, recapping the weekend in sports like you never heard it before. Comedy, interactive chat room, it's a must-listen. Weekend wrap-up on Spreaker.com. Part of the X Squad. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by iesportsradio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I did it in the open, but I wanted to take one more chance here. If you are so inclined in the holiday giving season, IE Sports Radio, we've been, like a lot of people, we've been hit hard during 2020. This has not been a great year for a lot of us, and unfortunately, IE Sports Radio has been no exception to that. We lost our sponsorship earlier in this year, and we lost our funding. And it doesn't take a lot to keep the station going on a month-to-month basis, but at the same time, it does take money to keep the station going. If you are at all able to help, that would be a huge help to us here at IE Sports Radio. And the way you can do that, if you're so inclined, you can go onto a site, Ko-Fi. They allow artists such as podcasters or cartoonists or comic book writers or you name it to be able to reach out for help, for support from fans or listeners or patrons, to just kind of throw a couple bucks. Buy us a coffee. Buy us a coffee. You can go to ko-fi.com/IE-sports-radio to donate. It can be as little as $1 or $2. It presets to $3, but whatever you're able to do, it's a huge help to us just to kind of keep us going. Again, we've got 16 shows that go on during the week, and just to be able to take advantage of things like Spreaker or StreamYard or other ways that we're able to come to you and do calls and games and things like that. Unfortunately, the bills have to get paid. So if you're able to support us in any way, that's a huge help. Again, if you're not please don't feel pressured. Thank you just for listening and supporting us that way. So thank you so very, very much. And I hope that you guys also have a safe and happy holiday season that we're in the midst of. All right. So one last segment to go. Last week I talked about the NCAA, it being suggested that the top tier of football actually get moved out of the purview of the NCAA, and I was in favor of that move for several reasons. I've got some more reasons. Basketball has just started up at the collegiate level, and already you have seen major programs have to shuffle things on the fly. After playing just one or two games, Duke kind of threw its hands up and said, all right, we're done. We're not going to be doing any more out-of-conference games, no more non-conference games. We're only going to be doing a conference schedule. That's all we feel safe doing. Having people come in from other places with which we're not familiar and not knowing what their COVID protocols have been. We just want to keep it all in-house and just keep it ACC. I have seen that Loyola University here in Chicago has suddenly had to scramble to fill some games. They're going up to Madison to play Wisconsin all of a sudden, and there was another game that I saw they're playing where just suddenly they're having to reshuffle things on the fly. College sports in general in this pandemic have been very, very, very tricky to pull off, and we all kind of knew that was going to be the case because, as the NCAA is always so quick to remind us, well, these are student athletes. They're not professionals. They're amateurs. And so they are totally and completely beholden to whatever the universities come up with to decide how to make it work. And the universities, by and large, the NCAA isn't a governing body to tell them, hey, here's how we're going to tackle this. Here's how we're going to go about this how we're going to tackle this program, and we're going to make it safe for everybody. They're more of a, well, we're going to give you some kind of general guidelines, and then we'll collect some money, and then you guys are left to your own devices. And so it's been up to each league and sometimes each school within a conference to figure out how to tackle this problem. Fortunately, for the case of college basketball, they have that wonderful, glorious tournament every year that we so lovingly refer to as March Madness to help determine their national champion. Football has no such system. Instead, you have the college football playoff, which is the top 4 schools, as determined by committee, get put into a semi-playoff and a championship game, and the winner is determined. But winning your conference sometimes matters, sometimes it doesn't. And they have been so hesitant to expand upon that. And if there was ever a year to expand upon your college football playoff system, this was the year. 2020 was the year. You saw playoffs get expanded everywhere else in North American sports. The NHL had a bigger playoff field than normal. The NBA had a bigger playoff field than normal. The MLB expanded its playoffs. Heck, the MLB looked like the March Madness tournament with all the teams they had in it. My goodness, they had 16 teams in the Major League playoffs. MLB, which is about as rigid and stubborn as it comes to change. MLB was willing to recognize and understand that, you know what, this is one that this is a year where we need to expand on this and include some more teams because we haven't been able to get in a full schedule. Why the NCAA hasn't expanded upon this, I have no idea. You have Ohio State playing in the Big Ten title game this coming Saturday against Northwestern. Ohio State's played all of 5 games this season. Nobody has any idea if they're really that good because they've only played 5 games, all inside the Big Ten, and all, frankly, against teams that haven't been all that strong to begin with. They're going to be playing against Northwestern. If Northwestern somehow pulls off the upset and beats Ohio State, Northwestern's not getting into the college football playoff. They've got that loss against Michigan State that's holding them back. Yeah, looking at Ohio State right now, they played Nebraska, a 35-point win. Penn State, a 13-point win. Rutgers, there's a football powerhouse there. And then they had games against Maryland canceled, against Illinois canceled, against Michigan canceled. We don't have a clear picture of what Ohio State looks like. You've got Notre Dame that got brought into the ACC on a temporary basis this year. That they should be a legit team. They should be in the college football playoff, but if they somehow lose to Clemson in the ACC title game this weekend, they're not going to be in the playoffs. You mean to tell me that Notre Dame doesn't deserve a seat at the table? It blows my mind, and it boggles my mind that the NCAA couldn't figure out that if there was ever a year, and you want to call it a trial basis, you want to call it a temporary expansion, whatever you want to do, fine. And Taryn points out in the chat, they should have made it 8 teams. Yes, I'd love to say. I saw one go as big as 16 teams for this year. Fine, whatever you want to do, expand the playoffs, certainly in this year. If there was ever a year to do it, this was the year. That way you get these schools an opportunity for the market to correct itself a little bit, in the sense of you can get these teams, you get a better idea of who's good and who's not by expanding the playoffs this year. And not to mention the amount of money that they'd be bringing in, because these schools are all going to cry dirt poor. That's why they're shutting down every other sport that isn't football or basketball, because there's just not the money there to be had to afford to put them on. You expand the playoffs, you can bring in the cash to those schools so that they can theoretically support the other sports that right now aren't getting done, even though I know in reality what will happen is the presidents and coaches and the athletic directors will just create a slush fund for themselves for most of it. But yes, expand the playoffs. I'd love to see the NCAA follow more of the basketball model for the football model, to go to at least 8 teams, if not 16. But let's just start with 8 for now. You have the Power 5 conferences in football: the Big Ten, the Pac-12, the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC. Whichever team wins that conference, they get into the playoff. I don't care what their ranking was. I don't care what their record was. They won their conference. Those are the best 5 conferences in football. Get them in there. Get those champions in there. Then take the best FBS or FCS as it's referred to. Let me make sure I'm referring to it correctly. Okay, they change the name of it every so often. FBS, there we go. Football Bowl Subdivision. Get that. Get the best team, the best conference champ from the non-Power 5 conference champions. Get them in there, and then have a couple wild card teams, so that your teams like Notre Dame, who aren't normally affiliated with the conference, so that they can have a path into the playoffs, or have, maybe your second tier SEC or your second tier Big Ten school can get in there with a couple wild cards, and then do an 8-team playoff, let them play it out, make it more structured so that you're not sitting there and, well, this team lost to that, this team lost over there on that day, but their best player was out and the wind was out of the south that day and the sun was shining and it was at 4:30 in the afternoon and this team then went on to lose to that guy and that. Don't worry about the drama. Make it so less dramatic of figuring out who your teams should be. Let the drama happen on the field, not in the boardrooms, behind closed doors during the week when nothing is happening on the field. Let the drama happen out on the field between the teams. Make it a bigger product. Make the football playoffs. And I hear the argument being made, but these are student athletes and this is happening during finals week. We can't have them miss finals. Bull. You can work around it. Trust me. If the basketball tournament can operate around spring break, you can figure out a way to fit this in. Trust me. I know there's a way to make it happen. So, NCAA, get this figured out. Get this situation taken care of. Expand the playoffs. You should have done it this year when you had the built-in, ready-made, I don't want to call a pandemic an excuse, because it's not. It's something to be treated seriously. But you had the built-in, baked-in opportunity that this pandemic presented you with of, hey, if we're going to do this, let's play around and tweak with this a little bit and figure out a way to make this product better on the field. And they didn't do it. They didn't take advantage of it. But my goodness, figure out how to make this work. All right, before we get out of here tonight, there is an anniversary to celebrate in Chicago sports, but more far-reaching, hockey as a whole. It was on this date back in 2011 that Patrick Kane taught the entire NHL world how to deke on a shootout. I retweeted it. The Blackhawks put it out there on their Twitter feed. I retweeted it. Patrick Kane introduced his super slow-mo deke shootout move on this date 9 years ago and absolutely made a fool of Nikolai Khabibulin of the Minnesota Wild for the easiest tap-in shootout goal you will ever see. Go check it out. I retweeted it on the show's Twitter page at Chi-Town Weekly IESR. And that is a move that has been picked up and adapted by players all across the NHL. So happy anniversary, Patrick Kane, and just showing us just how absurdly ridiculous of a hockey player you are and making grown men giggle while watching you do a shootout. I got to see him at a shootout against the Red Wings back in 2013. You can't help but giggle while watching him do that. He's amazing at that craft. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast doing the show this week, as I always do. Thank you so much for listening and reaching out to me. Thank you, Taryn, for being in the chat room. Appreciate it, talking back and forth with you. Everybody stay safe during this holiday season. If you're going to go visit family, please, please, please be careful. Use Zoom or whatever your viewing choice, your online conference call of choice is. Everybody have happy holidays. We will talk next week. Until then, be safe. Have a good week.